Good evening, everyone. Special good evening to the President and Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association, the board and executive members, specially invited guests, and to you, our online audience. We want to also say a special welcome to Miss Olivia Weeks, who is joining us from St. Lucia this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are happy to have you with us, Ms. Weeks. I am Brigid Winter, and I'm a member of the board of the TTEA, and I will be your host for this evening. I want to welcome you to session 7 of our Year 2 Spotlight Endometriosis series. I trust that you are all doing well, and I pray that you were not adversely affected by the weather that we are having. So again, we are so happy to have you join us this evening as we discuss holistic nutrition for bowel sensitivity with endometriosis. I also want to mention Ms. Odette Thomas of She is Lotus out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are happy to have you join us this evening as well. So our presenter for this evening is Ms. Fadwa Abdul-Ghafur. And I know she has a lot to share with all of us, and we will probably also have a lot of questions. So with that being said, let's just get right into it. Before I introduce Ms. Abdul-Ghafur, I want to remind us that the information that is shared on this program is for general, informational, and educational purposes only. It does not constitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for individuals. Please consult your healthcare provider if you have questions about your health or before starting any treatment. If you have any questions this evening, please feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand and we will unmute you and have you ask your question. Ms. Fadwa Aliyah Abdul-Ghafur, registered dietitian, is a University of the West Indies graduate and holder of a bachelor's degree in human nutrition and dietetics, as well as a postgraduate diploma in institutional and community nutrition and dietetics. Fadwa is a holistic health practitioner and a registered dietitian with the Nutrition and Dietetics Board of Trinidad and Tobago. She is the founder of the company Let's Be Wealthy Holistic Center, which focuses on holistic health and wellness, holistic healing and health management, with a special interest in functional medicine, women's reproductive health and wellness, endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroids, and polycystic ovarian syndrome. She has been a volunteer and passionate advocate for better care and management for women with endometriosis with the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association since 2017. And she is currently the TTEA's health director and is on the board of directors, as well as WareFit Community Women's in-house consulting health practitioner and dietitian. Fadwa is also a yoga practitioner with a passion for home gardening, healing arts, meditation, and recipe development, as well as an inductee into the Purple Dragon Caribbean Martial Arts Hall of Fame. Ms. Fadwa Abdul-Ghafur, welcome to this evening's program, and we are anxious to hear and receive all that you have to share with us.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Bridget, and thank you very much for that long but very lovely opening. So let's just get straight into this evening's session. So before we start, I just would like for everybody to quickly put into the chat just one word about how you're feeling this evening. If you don't want to put it directly in the chat, you can message me directly. This is just to set the tone for this evening. So we'll do that for about 2 minutes. So quickly into the chat. Just put one word as to how you're feeling today. See somebody's feeling excited. Somebody is sleepy. Rested. Nice. Just one word. Come on, people, don't be shy. Expectant. Nice. Thankful to be here. Gratitude is always good. It's excellent. Distressed. Okay. Awesome. Hope. Angeli's hopeful. Okay. Any more? Any more check-ins for this evening before we go on to our next exercise? All right. So for this next exercise, I want to do with you all some deep belly breathing. This is to relax the body, relax the mind, for us to be able to open our channels to receive the information that we are getting today. So I'll just like to invite you all to sit comfortably back into your seat. Bridget is starting to sigh already. Sit comfortably back into your seat. You can rest the palms of your hand on your laps, or you can put your right hand on your heart and your left hand on your belly. I want you to gently close your eyes, listen to the sound of my voice and the cues that I'm beginning to give you. So on the count of 3, I want you to take a nice, deep, relaxing breath. 1, 2, 3. I want you to hold that breath for the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I want you to exhale very slowly. 1, 2, 3. In again. This time we're going to hold it for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Deep exhale out. 1, 2, 3, 4. This time we'll go for 5. Deep inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Deep exhale out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For the next 30 seconds, I just want you to breathe normally. And I want you to pay attention to any air that is blowing against your skin, particularly your cheek. Focus on that area. Excellent. Nice. On the count of 5, I want you to take a very, 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 very big inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Big inhale in and sigh it out. Now I want to hear the sound. Let's do that again. Big inhale in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in. Sigh it out. Nice. So everybody put in the chat one word how you're feeling now after we've done that exercise. Nice. Okay, awesome. So let's begin. So today we're going to talk about bowel sensitivity with endometriosis. As you know, as endometriosis patients, we tend to, thank you for that comment, very relaxed. We tend to have issues with our bowels. One of the issues that we have with our bowels is bloating. Sometimes we may feel uncomfortable. It may happen throughout the month. It may happen every day. It may happen sometimes. Now, before I go further, this is an interactive session, so feel free to put your questions in the chat box. Bridget and I will be having a nice conversation. I realize she came off of the spotlight. I have a couple of polls, so let me throw a poll into the chat because we'll be talking about bowel movements, which is important to understand. So I'm launching a poll now. It's anonymous. So Jess, you'll have like 10 seconds just to select your response. Let's go. Bridget is smiling already.
Not sure I know what my poop looks like.
This poll is very important. Come on, people, don't be shy. It's anonymous. Nobody will know what you put here. All right, so the poll has ended. So I will share the results. Are you all seeing it on the screen or in the chat box? Somebody said they didn't receive it. Okay. All right, maybe we had some technical difficulties. I'll relaunch the poll. Right. It's important for us to pay attention to what happens when we go to the bathroom because these will give some telltale signs as to what's actually happening within us. And so don't just go and get up. It's always good to, observe what you're feeling before you go in, after you come out. Good. Did everybody get the poll? Right.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'll end the poll now. Most welcome. Right. So I'll share the results. So we are seeing a vast majority with a type 4 type of poop. So let me just briefly show you what that means. Right. So there are 3 types of IBS. We have IBS-D, which is IBS with diarrhea. We have IBS-C, which is IBS with constipation, and IBS-B, which is IBS mixed. You could have either constipation or you can have diarrhea at intervals during the month. Sometimes because of our hormonal imbalances or because of the fluctuations of hormones during the month, especially coming close to our monthly cycle, we tend to have our stool type change. IBS is also related to our emotions and stresses at that point in time during the month. IBS-D would be the first 2 types of stool. You'll find you will have more kind of hard and the last two, sorry, you'll find you'll have more diarrhea, more loose stools. Sometimes they tend to come out a bit frothy, sometimes with a lot of pain. Then we have IBS-C, which is constipation. You find you get a lot of pain trying to actually get it out. You tend to be constipated for a long period of time, as well as you find that you're trying to go and you just can't. And along with that comes the inflammation and the pain during that time. Sometimes it happens every single day. Sometimes it happens only close to the time of your period or during the time of your period. Then we have IBS mixed, where you may have both types during the month, whether you have both types during your cycle as well. Sometimes it starts off having diarrhea at the beginning, constipation near the end, or sometimes in the middle it tends to switch up either day. It all depends on the hormonal fluctuations within the body. When estrogen now is at its highest level in the body, it tends to manipulate how the microbiome operates and how the bowel itself moves. When progesterone is at its highest, it also tends to determine how your bowels and digestive tract would operate at that point in time.
Can I jump in, Fadwa?
Feel free.
So, two questions.
Yes.
Does everyone with endo have IBS? And also, what is the ideal stool type? What is our stool supposed to look like? What is healthy stool, if I can say that?
All right. Very good question, Brigid. Not everybody with endometriosis would have IBS. I know there's this thinking that once you have endo and you have adhesions, you run the risk of having IBS, right? Because it would occur in some women who have bowel endometriosis because of the adhesions on the bowel and the inflammation that occurs there. You tend to have a lot of restricted movement in terms of getting stool out, especially if you have a frozen pelvis. Majority of women with endo don't have IBS. There was a study that was done that has shown that only a small minority, about 31% of the participants actually did have it. The ideal stool type is actually thin and smooth, and it comes out very easily. So I have a picture of that. I can show that to you now, so you can have an idea of what it looks like. The ideal thing it would be to get to that point where your stool is actually looking normal and you don't have the excessive gaseousness at the end of the month or even during. So let me quickly share the picture of what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
So,
And while you are doing that, at what
yes.
point do I become concerned and maybe talk to a doctor about what is happening stool-wise?
If you find that you are overly constipated for more than a week, then you would need to see your doctor. If you find that you're having excessive amounts of diarrhea and it's not stopping, you should consult your doctor. A gastroenterologist is the best person to consult where this is concerned, because then it would mean that there is something wrong with the microbiome in your gut. Now, your gut has a lot of good bacteria, bad bacteria. The good bacteria sometimes turn bad when we have certain inconsistencies in terms of what we eat, how we feel, because there's a connection between the gut and the brain. But before we move into that, you asked what a healthy stool would look like, and that's type 4. And I recognize in the chat that the vast majority of people who answered had type 4.
That's
Type
great.
4 stool, so that is excellent. So they have a normal stool. Type 1 and 2 are more with constipation. Type 3 in between. Type 5 indicates that you don't have enough fiber into your diet. 6 and 7 are indication of IBS-D, which is IBS diarrhea. So in this instance, then you have to employ different techniques to solve this problem as well as this. But the healthy stool is type 4, which goes to answer your first question, and not everybody with endometriosis would have IBS,
IBS.
but there would be bowel sensitivity in some people.
Mhm.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
I'm hearing you use the word microbiome. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, your microbiome, I like to think about them as a world on its own. It's the world in your stomach, in your bowels. These are the gut bacteria that are responsible for maintaining hormonal balance as well as a healthy immune system. What happens is that some gut bacteria are very sensitive to certain foods. If we have highly processed foods, we tend to now change the good ones to the bad guys.
Mm,
So, because when they interact with the food and they start to ferment, they start to create that gas, that bloatedness that we get daily or monthly. Um, and it also affects it. What happens is that the gas will now push up the rest of your organs here and gives you that discomfort. So some people tend to have the heartburn, they tend to have a lot of burping, they tend to have a lot of flatulence, because this would then lead to something called gut dysbiosis, which is an overgrowth of a lot of the gut bacteria that is in there that will cause the discomfort. And with that overgrowth, it also affects your mental health
mhm,
as well as your hormonal balance. There are a lot of things that could affect the health of your microbiome. These include medications, especially amongst us where we have to use non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs for pain relief. These also used consistently and continuously would cause destruction with the microbiome, and imbalance would happen. We also have things like alcohol, excessive use of antibiotics, because antibiotics don't distinguish between good guys and bad guys.
bad
Everybody
guys.
getting locked up the same way.
Yeah.
So then we have to now rebuild the microbiome from scratch, especially after we get rid of everybody.
Mhm,
We also have things like, coffee. Depends on whether you have IBS diarrhea or IBS constipation. If you have the diarrhea version of it, remember, coffee is like a diuretic.
mhm,
Remember, coffee is water will follow. If you notice, if you have a cup of coffee, you tend to go to the bathroom very quickly and very regularly, especially on a cold day or otherwise. And one of the things with endometriosis patients is that we have a lot of bladder issues. We tend to have urgency to go to the washroom. Um, Sometimes you go and it's not a full bladder, it's just a little. And then we go continuously. It causes a lot of sleep disruption
mhm.
as well as disruption in our daily activities, because we always have to leave something to go to the bathroom to use it. We
Right.
have things like refined carbs. Refined carbs will definitely affect the microbiome because of the fermentation process. When the microorganisms now start to feed on this and create that huge amount of gas there. We have processed foods. We love to go and eat the canned foods and eat this food. The convenience foods are the ones that are bad in terms of your diet, and then the one causing inflammation and all these different things. We have artificial sweeteners. Most
Mhm.
people believe that if you just, open a pack of the artificial sweetener thing, and then the word all is good is bad for you. Your best bet is to use natural raw sugar if you want to use sugar, but sometimes even honey may cause a disturbance with some people. And again, I have to emphasize that one diet will not solve everybody's
Everybody's
problem, because
problems.
everybody is different, and that little universe that's inside of your gut is different for everybody. Another thing that causes disruption and may lead to IBS symptoms also is hormonal manipulating drugs. As you know, one of the treatment management styles for endometriosis is using hormonal drugs,
Mhm,
whether it's Mirena, the IUD, whether it's on a shot, whichever one it is, it does cause a disruption in the microbiome, because most hormonal medication will deplete the body of important vitamins and minerals that are needed to balance your body and balance the health of your gut. And this now would then cascade into an unhealthy microbiome, an unhealthy way of digesting, and then it would affect your mental health and these kind of things, and it goes on and on and on. If it is that we do experience mental health disorders, sometimes it tend to put us on meds for that. That also disrupts your microbiome and leads to a lot of IBS symptoms all
Mm-hmm.
at once. I saw an interesting research paper today pertaining to GMO foods, because we are in the age of genetically modified food for quote unquote food security.
Mm-hmm.
What they have found is that the GMO foods actually disrupts the genes, certain genes of the body, which would trigger an immune response because it's something foreign that the body does not understand.
Mm-hmm.
So with the immune response, it tends to have a lot of inflammation. That's why we have a lot of people who are sensitive to gluten and certain flours and these things, because even corn flour, because most of these things are now um, genetically modified
Modified.
to be pest resistant. And in that way, it affects our genes and it disrupts a lot of things, including hormonal balance. It goes straight to the gut, because remember, that's the place where all nutrients are absorbed to go within the body. So once that is disrupted, everything else kind of cascades into developing disorders as well.
So are there what foods are good for our microbiome?
Fermented foods are excellent for your microbiome. Um, these are things like sauerkraut. These are things like yogurt, kimchi. We have tempeh. All these are fermented foods. I know there's a kombucha drink that you could have because
Mm-hmm.
it's fermented. Um, I know there are lots of questions pertaining to whether you should have probiotics, but it depends on the type, because you would then have to consult a gastroenterologist to do certain tests to see which type of microbiome is actually missing.
Okay.
Because especially with irritable bowel disease, size ulcerative colitis, and Crohn's disease, it's a specific type of microbiome that is missing. Well, not really missing, but its population is very low. That would cause the disruption in the body and cause the excessive inflammation. And as we become inflamed, even with
Mm-hmm.
IBS, then the pain factor increases. When the pain factor increases, our anxiety increases. When anxiety increases, that's more pain because we put more stress. And the adrenaline is then directed throughout the body and makes the body tense, because we get into either fight, flee, or fight.
Mm-hmm.
So when we tense up our bodies, it now disrupts the microbiome as well, because we are introducing more pain and more inflammation into the body, which destroys all of that.
So a healthy gut is of extreme importance.
Yes, not only that, um, if we're talking about holistic nutrition and holistic health, um, we're also talking about your environment, your external environment as well.
Right.
Your
Something that
external
most of us don't consider.
your external stressors. Because we are in a place where the majority of women are out to work, and we are out into different types of energy patterns and energy frequencies. And because we are women are vessels that absorb a lot of energy. We absorb and we carry, we hold on to. All our cells remember things that would have happened in the past, whether it's a trauma with surgery, whether it's emotional trauma with other things, and the cells tend to remember that. And because of that, and we don't deal with it, it tends to now develop over time into something else,
Mm-hmm.
mostly negative. Um, One of the things it does as well is cause the development of diseases and disorders, because we don't deal with it. stressors and certain environments now, when we don't know how to maneuver and change, shift gears
Right.
from being overly anxious, we have to now be aggressive in the workplace sometimes. And we come home with that energy, or we go through the day with that energy. And then that continues to change our cells daily. I know this is a type of science that not a lot of people are into, but now more than ever, we see that a lot of practitioners are now understanding the importance of de-stressing and the fact that the body actually holds on to a lot of negativity and negative energy, and it causes a lot of disruption in the body, in particular with women, because of how we are designed and our reproductive system is designed to absorb and to carry and to hold. Because if you would notice, for most of us, around by our hip area is always tense, because we hold a lot of emotions there in the hip. And that's around the area where, you know, it have the bowels and everything. So all of that now would start to be affected on a daily basis. If you notice, after we did the breathing exercise, everybody was feeling calm and relaxed, because we actually allow the body for a point in time to calm all the way down and allow the organs now to kind of reboot.
Restart, yeah.
Yes. Just like when you have a car parked up for a long while and you have to continue, you have to, you know, turn the ignition for a little while to get it warmed up, right, for it to go again. I'm seeing lots of things in the chat happening currently. Let's see if there are any questions. I'm seeing, what if throughout the month your stool looks like all the different types shown on the chart? It would definitely mean that you have a mixed type of IBS, and that you would have to do like a little journal. Every time you see that specific type of bowel movement, you need to take note of exactly probably what you had during that day, or what experience did you encounter during that time. So at this point in time now, I will shoot another poll into the chat. So let's very quickly do this poll. Let's see what people are saying about this. Don't be shy. This poll is also anonymous. Names will not be shown.
My
Right?
poop habits will not be revealed.
No, everybody will not know. I must say, I must commend the gentlemen who are in the chat with us tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's always good to be that strong support staff for your significant other. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. All right, so let's end the poll. Let's share the results. So most people believe that it's 3 times per day. Some say it's 1, it's 50-50. So we have 50% 1, 50% 3 times for the day. In terms of stool frequency, it is said that it depends on the person, but once you have recognized that you're going beyond a certain amount of time without having a bowel movement, particularly over a week, over 4 days, it's time to do some checking on that. If you realize that you have too much diarrhea over some days, we need to check. I know most of us, if we're having some diarrhea, we will go and get a medication that will stop the diarrhea.
True.
Not understanding that sometimes the body may need to expel certain compounds that are in the body, or microbes that are causing some illness. And if we just stop the process, then we defeat any purpose. It will just go to another place and cause some other chaos somewhere else.
But I
Right.
kind of need to stop it somehow for me to get to the doctor.
Yes, you would have to stop it. My suggestion is that you increase your fiber to try and, it depends on the fiber, whether it's soluble or insoluble fiber, to stop it to get to the doctor. And but you have to make sure that whatever is in there is flushed out of it. I'm seeing another question. I know he's anxious to find out what other things could be incorporated into the diet. We are getting to that very soon. So let me share my screen again. Is everybody seeing the screen clearly?
I am. So while you organize, there's a question in the chat here. If you are suggesting that we don't use over-the-counter meds to stop diarrhea.
Well, it can cause more disruption than most.
Okay.
It can cause more disruption than most, especially when we are in that type of flare and we begin to get anxious. We just increase the flow of it because we're not calm enough to try and get it to, stop a little bit. I have to give my disclaimer. Yes, I'm a holistic practitioner. Some things that will refer you to the gastroenterologist. But I would have to say it's important for us to understand the gut-brain connection, because sometimes if it is that we are anxious and everything is happening up here, it's very clouded, it tends to affect the gut as well. So a question was asked about other foods that you can use in terms of IBS. If you have IBS diarrhea, you will have to now consult a low FODMAP diet. FODMAPs are the types of sugars that occur in food that will enhance the IBS-D, the diarrhea type of IBS. So you're trying to prevent the microbiome from feeding on certain types of sugars that will cause the bloating and the nausea and the other things that come along with it and the diarrhea. So when you have to choose starches or fruits or even spices and legumes, you have to choose those that are low FODMAP. For example, we have gluten-free flour, brown basmati rice. We have ground provisions, our local ground provisions. We have yam, dashi, and cassava, which ground provisions. We have gluten-free pastas. These are not genetically modified. We have wild rice, coconuts. We have normal white potatoes, organic cornmeal, and I have to stress organic, not genetically altered, as well as gluten-free crackers. Some fruits would cause IBS symptoms. Things like watermelon is too high in certain types of sugars that will induce diarrhea. So these here on this list here is better suited for IBS, persons with IBS-D. We have
Let me jump
grapefruit.
in.
Yes.
So someone is asking, someone is saying that they're seeing cranberries and blueberries on the list. Does this mean that we should exclude the other types of berries?
Yes, because of the types of sugars that it may have in it. Some of the sugars, as I said, like especially with watermelon, with the fermentation of it, as well as those other berries, it would now cause that gastric distress.
I can attest to that for the watermelon.
Yes. Cranberries, you can have them dried or how they are naturally.
Mhm.
Now, legumes and nuts are always up in the air type of thing. It depends on the person because, you know, some of them will cause a lot of gasiness in the stomach. So if you notice, I don't have red beans. As we know, red beans is the king of gas,
Gas.
right? So I would allow things like lentils in small amounts, not split peas or, as we know, dal, because that is very gassy. It will cause a lot of distress. I remember a client of mine who had split peas and had diarrhea after that. So you have to watch it. You see, it's based on the person. You have to now be your own physician, so to speak, in terms of making your journal entries and keeping record of what affects you and what doesn't, so you know next time that you wouldn't go and have that. In terms of food from animals, it may differ from person to person as well, because sometimes some food from animals would cause not diarrhea, constipation. If it is that the bowels cannot digest it as quickly, it will tend to
Mhm.
kind of slow down the movement through there and get stuck. And the key to that is that if you are constipated, the key is not to go and eat anything until you have a bowel movement, because then you'll be compacting everything as you eat. Sometimes some persons then go off today, oh gosh, I'm hungry now, I need to have breakfast. So you eat. Then, oh gosh, I need to have lunch. You eat again. You still haven't had the bowel movement. And then you
I
reach,
feel I feel
mhm.
like the thinking is because sometimes when I'm constipated, I feel like you didn't eat enough and that's why there's nothing in there to come out. So I go and eat, hoping that whatever I eat is going to push and come out.
Yes, I think that's the thinking. But what it actually does is compacts everything in there like a traffic jam on the highway and nothing moves.
But how do we
So
get it out? And
the
then we
thing
have
is,
the issue
mhm,
where it comes out and then it gets stuck.
yes, because now you have it coming out in little pellets. So it's causing a lot of pain to get out as well, because
Correct.
it have so much traffic in the background.
Okay.
And then with the pain and inflammation, it takes a long time to get out. So sometimes you need to assist it by allowing the body to do what it does on its own, but you help it with liquids. So instead of eating, you can
Mm-hmm.
then have things to drink, whether it's a smoothie, whether it's water, whether it's an adaptogen that will help with the movement of the bowel, that will kind of like move through. It will not destroy the microbiome. It will just help with the dislodgement of whatever is stuck in there, and then everything will just move one time. But you have to be strong enough not to have anything to eat until you get that bowel movement.
Again,
So
so it feels like I am just adding to more constipation if I'm not
yes,
eating.
if you're not eating, no,
Yes. If
you
I'm not
just
eating until it comes out,
right.
then it seems as if I'm compounding the problem.
No, actually, when you're eating, you're compounding the problem,
Mm.
because then it will take, remember, everything will not be out in a day. You will still
Right.
find that you'll have that feeling of fullness even after you go that one time.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling of fullness now will go into the next day, because remember, you would still have some things that are there before what you ate after that, still waiting to come out,
Right.
because the digestive process takes at least 3 hours, which includes your eating, your digesting, it's going to the colon, the small intestine, things are absorbed, whatever it is put in the colon now to come out. So at
So,
least give yourself that time in the morning.
mm-hmm. So then is it true that I should poop as regularly as I eat? Like meal wise?
It is ideal. Some people manage to get that done. that after every meal they would have that. Some people have healthy bowel movements like that. Some
Okay.
just have once for the day. You need to include a lot of liquids, not not like
Not juice.
not no. Well, because remember with the fermentation process of the microbiome, that sugar in the juice would
The
also
sugar.
cause some problems and some bloating and these kind of things. So if you want to institute something like intermittent fasting during the
Right.
morning period of time, so you stop eating at a certain time in the night to give your body enough time to now process everything and for it to be ready in the morning. So when you get up in the morning, you have to now have like a glass of warm water. You could have a glass of water with some apple cider vinegar in it, just to loosen up the body and the bowels, get the bowels moving a little bit. There are also some exercises you could use. I'll show that in a bit, that you can do to kind of loosen up the bowels, so that you can, go easily and you wouldn't have that feeling of fullness.
Right. So does it also matter what we eat? When, for example, if I'm eating fruit, which perhaps digests faster than meat, can I say that?
Yeah, it
If I
does.
eat the meat first, because the meat will have to come out before the fruit, right? But if the fruit is already digested, so it's just there fermenting, because it can't pass the meat, which takes a little longer to come out. So does it matter what we eat and in what
In what order? You're
order?
talking
Yes,
about the
in what
order.
order? Yeah.
Um, I would say it differs in terms of person to person, because some persons may be highly sensitive to all types of meats,
Right.
regardless of whether they have the fruit before or the fruit after. They tend to be a little backed up, especially with if they have IBSD. So everything will slow down. It doesn't matter. It will just slow down. It will just meet one another and just slow the entire movement to where it has to go. So most of the time I would advise a highly high plant-based diet, where you would have more raw as well as mixed with cooked vegetables, not overly cooked till the
The
vegetables
life
looking
has
like
gone out of it.
yes, they're looking like it wilting and it needs to get some CPR
Right.
to come back to life. So it basically you kind of like flash fry it, so it will maintain the crispiness of it, and you don't cook out all the nutrients in it. And we're not having meat every single day. Sometimes, we have this habit of having meat all the time. We can't eat unless we have meat on the plate, and it's a big piece of meat like this, and it's plenty rice like this, and it's like two pieces of lettuce lying on top of the piece of chicken, and we say, well, yes, we had a balanced meal. That will cause chaos, especially in somebody who has gut sensitivity, or even with somebody who has something like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease.
So what does a balanced plate look like for someone with bowel sensitivity? Is it different from the regular ideal plates?
The ideal plate is half of a plate with raw and cooked vegetables. So your diet must be at least 75% of that. Your protein will have to be divided between food from animals as well as legumes. But then again, you see, it differs according to from person to person, because some legumes may affect some may not.
Differently, yeah.
And one of the drawbacks too with when we are now trying to find out what helps us and what doesn't, is that we tend to eliminate a lot of things and end up eating just grass, and end up being malnourished because we are afraid, and it's a kind of traumatic response. If I eat this, then I'll end up in the bathroom and I wouldn't get to go here and I wouldn't get to go there. So we kind of restrict ourselves from eating anything, not understanding that we're doing more harm to our microbiome, more
Right.
harm to our hormones, and we are now developing other conditions, because now we are malnourished in terms of the micronutrients and other things that would now help us balance our hormones at the end of the day.
It
Yeah.
is traumatic, and I feel exactly the way that you describe, because sometimes it's like, I'm not going to eat it because I feel like it will make me sick, and then it's just a very vicious cycle.
Yes, or we go through the phase of, you know what, I am just so fed up. I am just going to eat
To
this
eat
anyway,
anything.
because what kind
Yeah.
of life, what kind of life do I have? Let me just eat this. I want this because I think I deserve to have this roti with all this goat and all this potato and everything, and all this flour, because I feeling so stressed out. So I need to have this roti to feel better. And in that point, you bite into the roti, you're feeling real good at that point. You're feeling accomplished. Oh my gosh, you're going off into a euphoria. And
But
the next day you're in trouble.
huh,
So it's always it's a give and take.
mhm,
Then it lends itself now to you being creative in terms of creating the food that you would like to eat, that would be
mhm,
safe enough for you to eat. Um, and not look boring or, taste like cardboard, as some people would describe, eating
right.
differently.
So let me ask folks, if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Don't be afraid. This is a safe place to drop your questions. Um, I forgot what I was about to say.
I'm seeing a question that's asking about medications colliding with your diet, and
Mhm.
also what can help with a low appetite. I'm not sure what's causing the low appetite, whether it is inflammation and pain related, because I know sometimes when we are in extreme pain, we lack an appetite,
Mhm.
and so we tend to not have anything at all, which would then exacerbate a lot of different things. I would suggest that at that point in time, when you don't have an appetite in terms of to eat anything heavy, that you have something light, maybe a broth, light soup, where everything is blended in, whether it's a liquid soup where you could just have everything cooked in it and you just strain out the bulkiness, and you just have the liquid alone. In that way, you're still adding nutrition to your body. You're just not giving your body a lot of work in terms of now digesting maybe the carrot or the potato, whatever it is. If you're not in the mood to eat, at least you're nourishing your body. And yes, some medications would affect your diet, especially hormonal medication, which will cause malabsorption.
Mhm.
Most women will be deficient in things like vitamin B, B complex, especially if they are on birth control. So that's why they advise that when you're on that, you tend to ensure that your diet is full of whole grains. And again, it's complicated with endo and IBS and this whole grains, because some of the whole grains would cause some of the IBS symptoms, whether it's diarrhea or constipation. So then you have to be able to kind of micromanage yourself, but not to the extent that you starve yourself and starve your body of getting the nutrition that it needs in order to heal.
So, and I just want to add, folks who are vegetarians as well need to be mindful of that
I'm
B
seeing,
vitamin.
yes, I'm seeing another question here. Is it possible to provide any tips to reduce bloating or foods to help the bloating? And besides monitoring which foods that can cause excessive bloating. We know that cruciferous vegetables cause a lot of bloating. Ever notice when you have cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, and all their various cousins and family members that
They're so delicious.
they're very delicious, but as soon as you finish eat it, especially their partner in
Cabbage.
crime, chickpeas, or aka chana, After you finish have those people, you tend to be very gassy and will cause a lot of bloating.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have to stay away from it. If you do want to have it, you should have it very minimally, not very often. Um, you can use teas like peppermint tea, spearmint teas. These help with bloating and reducing the symptoms of that. If you notice, as soon as you drink something hot like peppermint tea, you begin to burp
Mm-hmm.
or pass gas in other directions, and then you sort of feel a little more relieved that you could breathe. It's also good to use those things closer to your period when you're going through that PMS cycle. It will help as well to settle the stomach and your bowels to prevent that excess gas and everything.
Mm-hmm.
As we are talking about this, it's important to have movement, and there are some poses. I know not everybody is into yoga, but there are some poses that we can use in order to help with the movement of, okay, with the movement of the excess gas. So let me just bring that up very quickly. Here it is. I myself being in love with yoga, have tried these poses and they have been tried, tested, and proven true. This pose here is what you call the downward dog. And what it actually does is that it causes the body to relax. In relaxing the body, now you tend to allow the bowels, because in this position, you're not supposed to be tense.
Mm-hmm.
Relaxed. And you notice how she's facing here, and breathing into the position to allow all the muscles to now not be tense. This one here is called the full wind pose, where you bring your knees to your chest, with the objective being that you relax your entire body. And in this way, because her knees and her thighs are on the bowel area, it will tend to now move the excess gas down that way and out. I have done a few classes where, being the teacher and hearing students complaining, well, I hope nobody heard that, because as soon as they get into certain positions, automatically their body begins to release, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start to relax, then the body will now start to relax as well. And it will then release any trapped gas that's anywhere in the body and out. Um, men in the chat, this is good. You all could use this as well. It's really good. It's a good stretch. These things could be done before bedtime, for men or women. Here, this is called the upward dog or the cobra pose. If you notice how she is going, it literally massages the internal organs as well as does a bit of stretching. Notice that the hip area here, where we have a lot of tension, will be relaxed. Once you keep the body relaxed in this pose, the idea is not to strain, but to be present in it, not thinking, well, okay, I wonder what I'm going to cook or eat later, or I have this assignment to do. When you are in yoga poses or in these kind of things, you have to be mindful and meditative here, just as we did in the beginning with the breathing session, where we were actually present enough to feel that air on our cheek, and that helped our body, the parasympathetic nervous system, just calm us right down. These are another few that we can use. The happy baby pose also releases trapped gas. Here it will help with lower back pain if you just rock from side to side. It actually massages the lower back, because sometimes when our bowels are full, it tends to compress on our sciatic nerve and cause a lot of leg pain, lower back pain, and a lot of discomfort. So this pose actually helps to open out the hips, relax the hip muscles, and also relax the back muscles, massaging it as well as massaging the organs on the inside. This is the side angle. rounded side angle. The stretch here would release a lot of trapped gas again, and because sometimes it depends on which area of the abdomen that
Abdomen.
the gas is trapped. So if you do it left and right a few times along with all the others, you tend to move it around, and after that you get some relief. This here, where you have your hips elevated off the ground, or you could use a pillow, a blanket, or a yoga block. When you have it like that, you allow the body to relax. And then by allowing the body to relax, it starts to do what it's supposed to do. Here, we have the side twist. You can do left side and right side. It relaxes, again, the hip area, the legs. It's actually the twisting movement, like a washing machine, relaxes and moves whatever is stuck in there down. Because if you imagine what your bowels look like on the inside, where it's kind of twisted, by you twisting your body left like this in these poses, now you tend to help it along the tract. You can also, if you're on the, I'll call it throne. If you're on the throne on the morning time, or anytime when you're having some issues, you can also do the twist on the throne, where you twist your body left like this and like this a few times, but you must be relaxed. And that will help as well with the movement. Oh,
Well,
this will,
that's kind of contradictory. I'm in pain trying to get it out, but you tell
no.
me to relax.
Yes, because the more you are anxious about the pain that you're feeling, is the more your body will be tense, and now it's not moving at all. It will
Right.
just be there, causing more pain and more inflammation.
All right. We have a couple questions in the chat, but
Yes.
seeing as you showed some pictures with some males, and we are talking about bowel sensitivity. Do
Mm-hmm.
men have IBS?
Yes, I saw some men do have IBS as well as IBD, irritable bowel disease, which is Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, because sometimes they are genetic, so it can be passed down.
Right.
And just like, all beings, whether they are male or female, are very sensitive. As I mentioned before, we are energy beings, and we are sensitive to certain things in the environment, whether it's stressors. Stress is one of the things that causes the change in the body. Again, I'll emphasize, it causes a lot of change within the body, which now causes the manifestation of disorders and diseases. So
Right.
some men do have IBS.
And the treatment or the information that you've shared here this evening works for them as well.
Yes.
All right.
The thing is with women, because of the other conditions that comes along with it, you have to treat it differently,
Correct.
because you now have to combine various things in order to help relieve and manage everything that's going on all at once. Because when your gut is unhealthy, you tend to have manifestations of other comorbidities that go along with it. You tend to have mental health disorders, you tend to have asthma, you tend to have GERD, that's acid reflux.
Terrible acid reflux.
Right, that is because the bowels are full, they are now pushing everything up, and the acid now comes and it settles there. Another thing that's important to help manage IBS is proper sleep, because sleep disturbances causes an increase in inflammation and therefore an increase in pain. And sometimes IBS wakes people up at night. And when your bowels are distended, it now will press on your bladder, and you have to get up to go to the bathroom continuously, which will lead to sleep disturbances.
And the cycle will continue.
And the cycle continues. And the more we have inflammation and sleep disturbances, the less melatonin becomes in our body. Melatonin is a natural compound that is secreted by the brain, telling the body that it's time to sleep. If that is not secreted in the amounts it's supposed to, the body will not be relaxed enough in order to relax everything else. And then,
Right.
we have this habit of using the tick curtains.
Um, oh
Help
gosh,
me
I
out
know
here.
what you mean.
Yes, the word went out of my head.
Blackout.
The
Thank
blackout
you.
curtains.
The
Thank you,
blackout,
Amber.
the blackout curtains. Yes, thank you very much. And there is science to show that having that natural light in the morning is very important in having good sleep at night, because in your eyes need to adjust to that, and it tells your body, okay, it's time to wake up now. And it
Mhm.
also causes the secretion of different types of compounds within your body for the day that would then lead to relaxation at night and the release of melatonin. So when your biological clock realizes, well, it's morning time, and not the artificial light, you have to literally go outside and get some of that natural light in, because that also helps reduce inflammation, which melatonin also does once it's in the body at certain and within certain levels. If not, then you would then have to use a supplement once it doesn't have additives, or there's something called tart cherries, where they have found that tart cherries have a great amount of melatonin. So even if you have some tart cherry juice,
Mhm.
that will put enough melatonin in your body. And they have recognized this. They tried it with athletes and other people, and they found that that helped them to sleep and
Hmm.
relax the body. Yes.
Very
So that is
interesting.
something that you can look into as well.
All right. So we have two questions in the chat. The first one is bloating detrimental to my health?
If it's detrimental,
Mhm.
sometimes it can be. If it is that it's not allowing things to move and everything is just being compounded, you can, your bowels will be greatly distended, and then that inflammation will now go to the rest of your body. And there can be instances where you would have bowels, run the risk of bowels exploding, and these things, if it turn into something very serious and you don't take care of it.
Can
So
sepsis occur?
yes, it can. Once your bowels explode and it can occur, or if there's any leakages, because there's also something called leaky gut syndrome, where you have
Mhm.
excessive amount of mucus that's coming out and these things. I recently had somebody I know, her bowels that did happen to her. And because she does have IBS, another, a combination of IBS along with something else, another bowel disorder,
Mhm.
and things did leak out from in the bowel into the rest of her body, ended up into her lungs, and that caused a
Mm.
lot of problems. So, and therein lies the complication again, especially with endometriosis, where you have bowel endo, you have thoracic endo, and everything else. So once again, we go back to the bowel. Once there's chronic inflammation and chronic pain and a disruption in the force
Mhm.
down there, then you tend to have everything starting from up and coming, throughout the body.
Right. So we need to protect
We
our
need to,
microbiome.
yes, we do. They're very important, more important than we know.
Mhm.
Um, as well as the microbes that are present in other parts of our bodies that are important as well. That's why they advise that you don't do too many douches, because it could also disrupt the good bacteria that's there for certain purposes. And we also have to eat in order to feed those as well as the
Right.
ones in your stomach.
Okay, so our friend from St. Lucia is saying, I love yoga, but I got tired of doing the same poses all the time. I would like to continue. Do you know how I can get a daily guide?
Yes, there are some awesome yoga practitioners on YouTube. Um, I can probably share them with Amber and she will forward it to you. The key to keeping up with yoga is not to do an extensive amount of time, because your goal is just to show up on the mat, even if it's for 5 minutes. And the variety is always important. I always get excited for it. It depends on the type of yoga that you're going to do, because there are various types. You could switch it up during the week. You could do some power yoga, which gives you that strength and balance and everything, revs up the system like cardio. And then you could do some restorative yoga that, fully relaxes the body at night or during the day. You could even do chair yoga in the office. If you sort of feel distressed, you tell your coworkers, listen, I'm taking a time out right now. I need to bring my stress levels all the way down before I continue to go about my day. So it's all about finding that yoga practitioner that is very exciting for you. I personally use Ariana Elizabeth and I use Sarah Beth. They are two awesome yoga YouTubers, as well as Adrian. She is good as well. Did no sort of excessive talking. You just, follow the guide and it's good. You're good to go. Doing
I'm
yoga with
seeing.
somebody else will also give you some encouragement. So find a partner, grab a yoga mat, and explore.
Fadwa, from the moment you said yoga, your face lit up. So I
I
can
am so
tell that you're very
I
much
am
into yoga.
passionate about yoga. I love it. I
I'm
totally
seeing
love
that.
it. Mhm.
Someone is asking if you can recommend a doctor that can help to determine what is causing the bloating problem in Trinidad.
I don't have any recommendations for physicians. You can, if you look for a gastroenterologist, um, you can, let them go through the tests. I have been through the public health system, I myself, and sometimes it tends to be a bit frustrating. I would suggest that you seek a professional, and they will give you the best advice. But also remember that in order to manage any disorder or disease, you need a team and not only one person. You need a team. You need a cheerleading squad as well. A team of medical professionals, which includes, holistic practitioners and these things, somebody to deal with your diet, as well as your cheerleading squad, because you need the support of family and friends to get you through the difficult time. Because one of the things that also causes anxiety is that we feel that we are alone in it. And in being alone in it, we tend to raise our stress levels, and that now causes other things. So it's so important to be among people who are experiencing the same thing, but not to be stuck in that cycle of woe is me, but to encourage each other to, you know,
And
to
if I can
persevere.
add to that, just have a chat with your general practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they know and they have relationships with the other specialists. So
Mm-hmm.
your GP may be able to recommend a gastroenterologist, or they may be able to give you some simple solutions that you can do to help you with the bloating before you go to the specialist. Adixia, our VP, who is
Yes.
also a nurse, a registered nurse, she is saying that you should go to your health center first to get seen by a GP who
Mm-hmm.
will refer you. When you are referred, if you have insurance, which is important, you
You
can
can
get
get
it
it.
cheaper. Yeah, so first go to your health center,
Yes.
go to your GP, and follow the procedure and see. And also depending on if you know yourself well enough and you know it may be something that you are doing, you can see that because I did this, this is happening. You can, stop it and see if it makes a difference.
Yes, and that's one of the things, especially with the FODMAP diet, in terms of finding out what happens and what doesn't. You have to go through that 3 phase of elimination. and then first you eliminate, you see what happens, then you reintroduce. Probably about 2 or 3 weeks later after you eliminate whatever it is, reintroduce it into your diet and then see whether that was causing the disturbance or not. Then you would know, okay, I can't have this, or maybe I should have less of this, and then you alter to suit.
Right, and Medixia is also adding that you should get a referral for a nutritionist, dietitian, like our Fadwa here this evening. So I want to ask a final question. So I feel that I have bowel sensitivity or I have IBS. What do I do? Where do I start? What is my next move?
Your next move is to see your physician or practitioner, holistic practitioner or dietitian, or a mix of everybody, because then they'll be able to guide you. Any good practitioner will now be able to assess, because they have to be able to assess, to do proper tests to see whether or not it's really that, because sometimes we could have symptoms of IBS and it may just be that one particular food is causing us some disturbance and we don't really have IBS. So first do the process of elimination. Think back to what you had that day, eliminate that and see if it still continues, or if you notice a pattern over the past 3 months continuously, the same thing keeps happening all the time, know that you definitely have a problem and that you need to go and see somebody about it in order to get the correct guidance. And in that way, you will tend to be directed, towards whoever is supposed to assist. 1 second.
Sure. All right, folks, we'll be back in a minute. I'm seeing one last question in the chat, so
Yes,
we'll take that.
apologies for that.
That's fine. We have one last question in the chat, and then we'll come back to what you were saying. Will too much fiber cause bloating?
Again, that depends on your sensitivity to whatever you're having, because it depends on whether it's soluble or insoluble fiber. It depends on whether it's from GMO sources that will cause the disruption in the gut.
All right. So at what point, because I'm going to my doctor and I'm saying, Doc, I think I have IBS. He's going to ask me, on what basis are you saying that? So at what point should I start a food diary? Should I start a food diary? Does that help?
Yes, you should. You should start a food diary to keep track of exactly what you had that week, so that when you go to the doctor, you could present to them and say, well, I'm not sure what's happening to me, but this is what happened during this time. Not only a food diary, but a journal of what took place during that day, whether you were feeling stressed, whether you were feeling relaxed, if something occurred, if some trauma happened. All these things actually add up, and all these things do cause gut disturbances. So it's good to keep a journal of exactly what's going on with your life and be in touch with what's happening on the inside, because then that will now give you some answers to some burning questions as to why is this happening to my body, because there is the thing as the gut brain connection, and it does affect everything else.
All right. Thank you, Fadwa Aliyah Abdul-Ghafur. I want to ask you to leave. What is the one thing you would like us to, if we forget everything else, what would you like us to take away from all that you've shared this evening?
One, I want you to pay attention to the health of your microbiome, your gut, in terms of what you eat. I know it's Christmas time. It is Christmas time, And this is the time everybody wants to eat everything. We want
True.
to drink the punch of creme, and we want to drink the sorrel wine, and we want to eat the black cake and everything else. Be mindful when you go in family gatherings of what is there. And as we spoke about the cycle, before we see everything, we say, well, oh gosh, what kind of life I have? I need to have this because I can't live if I don't have some of this black cake now.
Mhm.
So just be prepared and be mindful of what you eat this holidays, and know that whatever you put in your body, it will have a reaction after that. Be also mindful of the environment in which you function in, your stress levels, because diet is not only food. Diet is what you read, what you listen to, what you interact with. Um, Diet is also what you think, because we would tend to go through the cycle of not loving ourselves enough. So that
Mhm.
as well would affect our mental health, and it would affect our bodies in terms of the ability for it to adjust. So we have to be mindful of that as well. Everything in moderation is what I like to preach. Um, Even over the season, be observant as to what causes the disturbances. If it is that you're accustomed to the gathering, you can maybe walk with a dish that you will be able to have.
Mhm.
Look for recipes that you could still have fruit cake, gluten free, and it will taste very good, without alcohol too, because alcohol causes gut disturbances as well.
Correct.
So the ham, lamb, and jam and everything else, um, be mindful of that when you eat. Mindful eating, intuitive eating means that you pay close attention to what goes into your body and what it does on the way while it's liming in there and on the way out.
Thank you. Ham, lamb, jam, inflammation. Just consider it. So we do
Yes.
want to say a special thank you to Ms. Fadwa Aliyah Abdul-Ghafur for all that she has shared this evening. And I'm sure that she can share a lot more. It's just that we don't have the time. We have dropped a form in the chat. Could you just take 2 minutes to complete it? It helps us to provide programming that is useful to all of us. So please take 2 minutes to complete the form. And to all of you who are here this evening, we thank you for coming in and for participating. I just want to make one correction. I believe I referred to Odelia Thomas as Odette Thomas earlier, so just forgive me. Odelia Thomas is from She is Lotus in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Thank you for coming in this evening, and also Miss Olivia Ann Weeks from St. Lucia. I encourage all of you to stay tuned to the TTEA's social media pages for our further spotlight sessions. And I want to thank our board and executive for the work that they are doing in spotlighting endometriosis. Have a great evening, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you. Have a great season, and please take care of your microbiome so that you can have a healthy gut. Take care. Have a great evening.